Now discussion, further discussion on the motion of thanks to the President's address. Sri Sitaram Yechury.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for calling me to speak on the motion of thanks to the Honorable President's address. Yes, but the fact is that today is the International Women's Day, sir. And this debate is continuing today. Therefore, at the outset, I'd like to convey my solidarity with the women in our country, in the world, and all the issues that they are agitating for, with which I express my and my party's complete solidarity. But, sir, I'd like to remind the government, often they throw their tyranny of the majority in the other house, and they are also going through the subterfuges of trying to
You cannot criticize the other house.
I'm sorry?
You cannot criticize the other house.
No, I'm criticizing them for using their tyranny, not the other house.
Okay.
No, I'm only appealing to them. They try to manipulate and get any I'm sorry? Tyranny of your majority. You are using that. No, please. I've used it here. And I only request honorable ministers to please remember they are ministers. You see, I mean, you use the dignity of the house. I mean, the country has elevated you. So therefore, sir, without any further interruptions, I hope, what the point I'm saying is that you are going to the extent of manipulating the constitutional right of declaring a bill as a money bill so that our scrutiny in this house is avoided. Reason why I'm saying this is, after our house has passed the Women's Reservations Bill, despite all this majority, why are you not getting the Women's Reservation Bill passed in the Lok Sabha? International Women's Day, if you have any respect for that, immediately this government must take on the agenda of the other house a bill passed by us pending before them. That should be passed by the other house. Otherwise, all the promises that you are making is hollow as far as the women of our country are concerned. And this point, I would like you to bear in mind. Second thing, sir, in this context, is that today we have raised this point a number of times. I have raised it. There are over 1 crore of women working as what is called the scheme workers, the Anganwadi workers. The entire issue of your ICDS program, your health, the issues of tackling malnutrition amongst our children. All these women who are actually nurturing the future of our country, the future students, these women are not even treated as government employees. They survive on stipends. They are nurturing our future, sir. And on the Women's Day, at least the pledge that you accept them as government servants, give them the benefits so that their work can be improved, so that a better India is created. At least these two issues. Through you, sir, I want the government to at least consider and give us an assurance in the reply by the Honorable Prime Minister that the Women's Reservation Bill will not be delayed any further, and that the scheme workers will all be declared as government servants with all the benefits that has been promised down the line for over a decade now. Then, sir, coming to the Honorable President's address, I think there are very serious omissions that are there in this address, about which we have moved concrete amendments that we'll take up when the amendments come. But there's a very, very, very deep regret that there's no mention in the Honorable President's address about the serious situation arriving in the institutions of higher education in our country. There's no mention of what happened in the Hyderabad Central University. There's no mention of what has happened and happening in JNU. There's no mention of all the incidents that have occurred, whether it's IIT Chennai, whether it's happened at the Film Institute in Pune, whether it is now happening in Allahabad University. But since the President gave his address some time ago, the Allahabad development came subsequently. But on all these matters, the address is silent. So I will want to express my deep and the deepest regret that the Honorable President of India has not mentioned any of these issues which are today burning in the country and dividing our people. And in this context, sir, I would like to refer to also the sort of intolerance that is happening along with these institutions of higher education. And this rising intolerance and the use of nationalism, I must say it, sir, I'm very deeply concerned that it is chillingly reminiscent of how Hitler used nationalism in order to establish fascism in Europe in the 1930s. And that sort of a parallel I'm drawing, it is not alarmist anymore. It is actually happening in our country that either you are with us, like George Bush once said very famously or infamously, either you are with us or you are with them. That is what is happening. My way or the highway. You're right. Digvijay Singh ji sir has added one more element to describe what I'm trying to say. Either my way or the highway, or saying that you're either with me or with them. And the them is all what who? Anti-national. That you are not patriotic. That sort of a situation is being created in the country. And the Honorable President of India is totally oblivious of that in the entire speech. Not one reference. That is a very, very deep concern and an element for deepest regret, that these issues have not been mentioned. And in the process, what is happening is that the rich syncretic evolution of the Indian civilization. The other day we heard the Honorable Home Minister speak from here, that all the sects that you will find in the minority religions in our country, like Christianity or Islam, nowhere else in the world they coexist like they coexist in India. And if you recollect, sir, you were in the chair then, I had to ask him, is he giving us a lesson in the history of India that was past and not talking about India today? When you have members of parliament and ministers making such hate speeches, all that we asked the Honorable Prime Minister when he entered this house, seeking blessings from the steps he was entering, saying, this is, ye mandir hai, hamare jantantra ka. And I said, sir, agar ye mandir hai jantantra ka, जो लोग इस तरीके के भाषण दे रहे हैं, हमारा कानून कहता है, वो हमारे कानून का उल्लंघन है, वो उनके ऊपर सजा होनी चाहिए. हम सिर्फ यही निवेदन कर रहे थे माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी से, अब ये आश्वासन दीजिए देश का कानून का पालन होगा आपकी सरकार में. Assure this house that you will abide by the Indian law as it exists today in the statute book. No assurance has come so far. That is emboldening their own members to continue to raise all these divisive issues which are dividing our society. And that is why, sir, today, this all fits in only into one objective as far as I can understand. That objective is to metamorphose or to change the secular democratic character of the Indian Republic and this constitution, and to replace that with what their vision or what they call as the vision or the understanding of the RSS, which is the Hindu Rashtra. A rabidly intolerant, fascistic Hindu Rashtra is what they want this country to be transformed into. And all this fits, they're all jigsaw puzzles. Whether it's Hyderabad Central University, whether it's JNU, whether what is happening in Allahabad today, all this fit into that jigsaw puzzle of the larger objective of metamorphosing our character of our republic. I sincerely regret that amongst all these issues, there is actually no mention in the Honorable President's address. But at the same time, the Honorable President outlined the philosophy of what he calls his government. And that philosophy has been compressed in para 3 of his address into 3 slogans. गरीबों की उन्नति, किसानों की समृद्धि, युवाओं का रोजगार. And in order to achieve this, they have quoted Mahatma Gandhi in para 4. I quote, poverty is the worst form of violence, unquote. And then they quote Dr. Ambedkar, political democracy cannot last unless there lies at the base of it a social democracy, unquote. This is in para 10 of the Honorable President's speech. And then he talks about how we observe the Ambedkar 125th birth anniversary, the declaration of the Constitution Day, etc., etc. If that is the very constitution you want to replace, if that is the very character of this, what Ambedkar, as the chairman of the drafting committee, gave us this constitution in the draft, that is what you want to replace, yet you quote from them, and then and then you go on to say how you want to preserve the legacy of Dr. Ambedkar and the Panchatirthas, etc., that the Honorable President says. But this does not gel with what is happening in our country today, sir, at the ground level. So that is why today, when you talk of all these quotations, we need to understand what is the actual reality that is happening in our country. Apart from all this communal polarization and the effort to metamorphose the character of the Indian Republic, what is the real quality of life of our people today, sir? This address has 26 paras on the state of our economy and how to improve it. 17 of these paragraphs are devoted to improving the infrastructure in our country, economic infrastructure. But there is an omission, no reference, much of a reference to the social infrastructure. But that, be that as it may, I'll come to that subsequently if you permit me. We have the time. But of these 26 paragraphs, there's only one way I can characterize all the proposals that were made in all these 26 paragraphs is what is now gaining popularity in the country, that it is not economics, but is Jumlanomics. Jumlanomics is exactly what this government. I'm not able to follow what Jumlas are the election promises that are not to be kept. And the entire economic philosophy in this speech, sir, is what I can characterize it as Jumlanomics. Because the reason I'm saying it, I'll just elaborate a little so that it's understood. The thrust of the philosophy that is given both in the Honorable President's address and the budget. The budget we'll discuss separately, therefore I'm not going into those details, is that there is a slowdown of the global economy. That slowdown of the global economy is affecting us in India, and therefore we must understand that and reorient our economy in order to overcome the impact of the global slowdown. Fine, there is a global slowdown, there is the capitalism, global capitalism is unable, in my opinion, it will not be able to come out of its crisis. And it will be only by increasing the exploitation of the people all over the world. But in our country, if this is your understanding, then what should be the results, sir? What should be the consequence that should follow? That if the global economy is slowing down, the global market is slowing down, our thrust in India should be to expand our domestic market. Instead, what the budget proposals and what the speech contains is the exact opposite. Instead of expanding our domestic market, instead of giving more purchasing power in the hands of the people, these proposals today amount to further contracting the purchasing power of the vast mass of our people, therefore impoverishing them more at the expense of allowing foreign and domestic big capital to make greater profits. Now, why I say this is because this budget has decreased the quantum to be collected through the direct taxes, decreased, and has increased by over 20,000 crores what is being collected through indirect taxes. What is this indirect taxes, sir? Eventually, that will reflect itself in the rise in prices and economic burden on the people over and above all the price rise that is happening now. And that will mean people's disposable income will contract further. So instead of expanding people's purchasing power, you're contracting it. And there is no lack of resources in our country. You are today talking in terms of saying that we have given so much allocation for agriculture. But at the same time, fiscal management was a great thing, saying that this budget is achieved. How did you achieve that fiscal management? Your international price of oil fell from about 110 plus dollars per barrel to less than $30 a barrel. This should have gone to you and me, to the people of our country, in terms of lowering the price of the petroleum products. Instead, where has it gone? Into the government's kitty through which this fiscal management was undertaken. They earned 54,000 crores by depriving the people of that benefit which should have gone to them justifiably. That is their fiscal management. But that apart, what have they done in this budget, sir? What have they done in this budget which has been put away in a corner so that hoping that people will not see that? They have given tax concessions somewhere tucked away in the revenue expenditure, page 61, if you want to look at it. Tucked away there, the figures are given, that you are given a total tax concessions, what you should have collected, to the tune of 6 crore 11,000 crores. 6 lakh 11,000 crores. This is the amount of tax incentives that have been given. And even if you minus the personal income tax, saying that it will go to a large number of your salaried classes, then the total amount that is actually foregone comes to some 5 lakh odd crores of rupees. Last year, how much was it minus the personal income tax? It was 4 lakh some order of crores. That is, the tax incentives are being increased. Governmental revenue is decreasing accordingly. And if you had actually collected this tax, sir, you could actually give 3 times more the programs that you have today. 3 times more programs you can have today to generate rural employment. But that has been given up for increasing the number of dollar billionaires in our country. According to the latest Hurun report, there are 111 dollar billionaires in our country. In the whole world, 99 dollar billionaires have been added to the list of dollar billionaires. Amongst that 99, 27 are from India. The combined wealth of these 111 dollar billionaires rose by 62 billion in the last 1 year. 62 billion. So somebody is getting their Achhe Din. Achhe Din, that slogan, somebody is benefiting out of it. 111 people have added 62 billion in the last 1 year to have a total asset value of 308 billion US dollars. 308 billion, somewhere close to half, between half and 3/4 of our entire GDP. That is the wealth accumulation in one corner. And on the other corner, or if you had collected from this tax foregone a 30% tax, that is what your standard rate is, you would have got, sir, by now, more than $18 billion or 1,22,744 crores. This is enough to expand rural employment program by more than threefold in a year of this sort of a crisis we have in the country. So the net result, sir, is that you are having Apart from this dividing the country on the basis of this pseudo-nationalism that they are pursuing, you are having the creation of two Indias that is expanding in a much faster pace. And now comes a very, very dangerous thing that I have suddenly come across, that while you are expanding avenues for the rich to become richer, the poor to become poorer, and saying that you have a resource crunch because of which you cannot expand the programs to give a normal, healthy life to all our people. While you're doing that, who is gaining? Apart through the tax concessions, the Indian big business and the corporate houses, what is it that this government has promised, sir, to the foreign capital? I'm reading from the US Chamber of Commerce's Global Intellectual Property Center, 2016 Special 301 submission. Since you come from Kerala, you read Malayalam papers? Deputy Chairman, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, yesterday in your largely circulated Malayalam daily, Manorama, this news has appeared. This has appeared also in the National Daily Indian Express. But I'm quoting from the authentic papers.
I saw it.
You said it. Very good. But what does it say, sir? That official paper. Industry, while, I'm quoting, while the government of India has privately reassured industry that it would not use compulsory licenses for commercial purposes. Unquote. I'm sure Jairam would have seen this.
स्टेट जो नोट्स ले क्योंकि पीएम को रिप्लाई करना है, कोई है ही नहीं, कोई नोट्स ही नहीं ले रहा है ना। कोई एमओएस होना चाहिए पीएमओ से।
नोट ले रहे हैं
नकवी साहब, आप कितना काम करोगे अकेले?
नोट ले रहे हैं, यहाँ भी ले रहे हैं, वहाँ भी ले रहे हैं,
आप
सब नोट
अकेले
हो रहा
कितना
है।
काम करोगे?
ये लाइव आ रहा है, कोई
एक
चिंता नहीं।
एमओएस
हम ले रहे हैं, नोट ले रहे हैं।
एमओएस होना चाहिए।
शुक्ला जी,
हो रहा है नोट।
शुक्ला जी,
हो भी रहा है, नोट मिलेगा भी, आप चिंता मत
इम्पोर्टेंट भाषण का।
करिए। सीताराम येचुरी जी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट, हमें भी मालूम है, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट लीडर
शुक्ला
है।
जी, कैबिनेट मिनिस्टर्स आ रही है, कैबिनेट मिनिस्टर्स आ रही है।
टोक नहीं रहे उनको।
या।
कई ऐसे पेपर्स उन्होंने दिखाए हैं जिसको कि आप ऑथेंटिकेट करने के लिए कह सकते हैं, लेकिन हम टोक नहीं रहे हैं क्योंकि वो चाहते हैं कि वो।
लो सर, ऑथेंटिकेट कर रहा हूँ मैं, लीजिए, मैं दे रहा हूँ पेपर, ये लीजिए। अब ऑथेंटिकेटेड के भूत मत चढ़ाइए, वो सब है ऑथेंटिकेटेड। अब ये हमारे राजीव शुक्ला साहब के जो सवाल था जिसको मैं यील्ड किया, उसका जवाब यही है कि हमारे जो भी हम बोल रहे हैं उसका जवाब मिलेगा नहीं आपको, तो सुनकर नोट करने की भी क्यों अमन ये करे, मतलब उतनी काम क्यों करे, उतना मेहनत क्यों करे? कभी देखा ऐसे चीज़ों पे जवाब मिली आपको? इसलिए हम कह रहे हैं कि ये जुमलानॉमिक्स है, जुमलानॉमिक्स, ये इकोनॉमिक्स नहीं है। And sir, in order to bolster that point, I'm telling you once again, this is from the US-India Business Council. ये सब मैं साइन करके ऑथेंटिकेट करके दे रहा हूँ सुसुर। This is US-India Business Council. And that gives you the entire thing of what is the business cooperation between the two. And what do they say, sir? The government of India, quote, the government of India has privately assured it would not use compulsory licenses for commercial purposes. Unquote.
Is it true? It is privately.
That is what these documents
No,
say.
no, I read it. I read it.
No,
But
I'm
saying-
I'm sure you're also as concerned.
Yeah.
I only hope that the government, like my friend Rajiv Shukla said, I hope they take note of it. If not anything else, I'll give you the documents. Now, what is this private assurance to foreign capital, sir? That you can come and loot India, make your profits. Indian corporates are given these tax incentives to the tune of over 6 lakh crores. Increased from over 5 lakh crores last year. And then you say, global economy is slowing down, we need to grow on the basis of our domestic strength. But instead of doing that, instead of using money which you should have collected, you are subsidizing. Tax incentives are nothing but subsidies. You are subsidizing the rich, the corporates, and the foreign capital by these actions. So that is making India more of a surrogate economy to global capitalism, where they themselves say global capitalism, global economy is slowing down. So what is the direction which the Honorable President has given us? Tax incentives, I told you. What is the amount of NPAs with your banks, sir? Mostly nationalized banks. The latest figure is 5,62,000 crores. 6,11,000 crores of tax incentives, that is tax foregone. 5,62,000 of NPAs or loans that won't be returned. And then you use that as the excuse saying that the Indian nationalized banks must restructure themselves, and thereby saying, paving the way for global banking industry to enter the Indian market. And that is going along with the privatization. Privatization is now happening all across the board. And that licensing has now been given. You are taxing employees' provident fund. Today, I believe that's been rolled back. I don't know whether it's been rolled back or not. But what is this maximum governance and minimum government? You make a proposal, 4 different interpretations come from 4 different sources in the finance ministry, then finally it is rolled back. You will tax the hard-earned savings of your employees, your working people. In the health sector, what have you said? You fall ill, I'll promote insurance companies. Nothing to do with public health. Nothing to provide the Indian people with public health. But again, paving the way for foreign companies to enter. In the retail sector, what have you said? For agribusiness, for storage, we'll allow these big retail chains to come into India. And all that commitment that was given on the issue of no FDI in your retail trade, all that is thrown to the wind with the proposals that are being made here, sir. So therefore, what I would like to emphasize here, this Jumlanomics that is going on, which unfortunately Honorable President has also said in his speech, I can understand the Honorable President's predicament. According to our Constitution, he can't change a comma or a full stop of the text that has been approved by the Union Cabinet. And that Union Cabinet contains proposals whereby the Indian wealth is put at the altar of profit maximization of foreign companies and of Indian big business. Incentives are given to the tune of 6,11,000 crores. Subsidies for the rich and subsidies for the poor are continuously being cut and restricted, saying that they should be targeted, they should only go to those who deserve. And now the bill that has been declared as a money bill, and it won't come for our, may come for our opinion and some perorative speeches, but which will have of no consequence, is the one legalizing the Aadhaars. And as far as the Aadhaar is concerned, the leader of the House is not here, but I have here a printout of what an article that was posted on the BJP's website, and that says, this is an article that was posted in 2013, and with the leader of the House, the current finance minister, where he says, Aadhaar can mess up life of ordinary people, unquote. And here, sir, he says that with the Aadhaar card and with all the information that will be there in terms of the biometrics, or what do you call that? Biometrics. Everything of a person's background can all be accessed by private agencies, and we don't know where that information is going to go. And it's not me who has been opposing it. It has been the BJP officially. You want the authentication of this, Mr. Minister? Huh? It is there. I took the printout from your website, from the BJP's website. And this is what the finance minister says when he was the leader of the opposition here. And now as the leader of the house, they do the exact opposite. And this is a very serious matter. And this is a very, very serious matter, and that linkage of any subsidy delivery with the Aadhaar card is something has a large amount of problems, and I can, with pleasure, agree with these views of the leader of the house, and I hope as the finance minister now, he'll only implement what he has written about the dangers here and that he should not do it.
That is not leader of the house, leader of the opposition.
Now today, leader of the house.
But that is, what you are quoting is old one.
No,
not
I
today,
told you that.
Not
Then,
today's.
then as the leader of the opposition, then
That's what leader
than today's leader of the house and as the finance minister. He just has to abide by what he himself had written and stop this implementation of this and trying to allow that bill to be passed by declaring it a money bill. And therefore, I already told you once, please have that board put up right behind us so that I can see. And then you will start ringing the bell. What can I do?
At least I did not start that. Then
No, I get a pain.
Why do you prompt me to do that now?
No, I get a pain in my neck, sir, looking at that direction and this direction.
You
Now-
only look at me.
So I'm coming to my final point, sir. You see, sir, essentially the address by the President of India is a camouflage. Is a camouflage to assert that there are two principal objectives of his government. One objective is what I already said earlier, is to metamorphose the Indian Republic, its character, from being the secular democratic republic, which Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar had drafted this in this central hall, all of us adopted and said, we the people. That instead of that we the people and secular democracy, to replace it by their version of a Hindu Rashtra. Second is the economic policy that they are following is a policy that will only enrich the rich, widen the gulf between the two Indias currently in our country, and at the same time fattening the profits of international capital. Now this is the dual thrust of this government. And in doing this, there were references that were made. In talking about nationalism, various charges have come which have already been established, proved that they are wrong outside of the house, so I'm not referring to them here. All this campaign on calumny continues, and it continues to the extent of I've given a motion of privilege, the Honorable Chairman will I hope he's examining that. But on the floor of the House, I'd like to say, it was said on the floor of the House, absolutely untrue assertions, that I had said something to inflame the passions of the Hindus in our country by saying something about goddess Durga, which is totally wrong. I've given you the record of the entire proceedings of the House. And on that basis, that is a signal. And all of us will be targeted against that one at one time or the other. That is the signal for the troll machine of theirs to start working in giving threatening calls, intimidation, etc., etc. Can we allow that, sir? Is this the nationalism? Either you're with us or you're an enemy of our country. And that is the sort of India that they are proceeding to create. And that is why I want to express my deep apprehension of what is happening. And nowadays it's been found, Honorable President said this, Honorable Prime Minister said this, I'm concluding, I'm wrapping up. Honorable Prime Minister said this, they are quoted Satyam Shivam Sundaram. We all say Satyam Shivam Sundaram, but what is that Satyam? What is that Satyam? And that will have to be established, and I hope the Chair will also take a proper cognizance of establishing that Satyam. But when the Prime Minister and the Honorable President used Satyam Shivam Sundaram, it has got 3 S's in it. Satyam Shivam Sundaram, 3 S. The secret police of Hitler through which the terror was spread had 2 S's. It was called the SS. Now the Prime Minister is going ahead. This government is actually becoming more efficient. They're even bettering Hitler. Instead of 2 S's, they have now 3 S's. Whatever that may be. And that is the sort of a society they are wanting to create today. That will be resisted. I'm sorry, we shall resist it. And it will be resisted both inside and outside the parliament. And that is the only way in which any patriotic Indian today can save his motherland and preserve its rich syncretic civilizational culture is by opposing this sort of a metamorphosis that they are doing and they are attempting to do for our republic.
Okay.
And then finally, sir, there was a very interesting, I'm not talking about the other house, therefore, but in that thing, finally, the Honorable Prime Minister made a reference to some story about Stalin and Khrushchev. Then, permit me, before concluding, I'll just relate another story. Stalin, sir, whether you like it or not, this chair on which you are sitting was the chair from which Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan read the obituary for Stalin in this house. And Stalin probably is the only foreign leader for which the parliament adjourned as a mark of tribute. So don't treat them in this cavalier manner. Whatever has happened in history is a different issue. But the story that he narrated between Stalin and Khrushchev, there's another story, sir, between Khrushchev and Chou En-lai, which I'd like to narrate. You'll also, I'm sure, enjoy it. You see, after the de-Stalinization that took place and all that so-called exposures that were made and things like that, the Chinese party did not agree. There was a big meetings and discussions, big polemics between the Chinese Communist Party and the Soviet Union Communist Party. And during the course of these discussions, there was a point where no agreement could be found. So at that stage, Khrushchev tells Chou En-lai, saying that, look here, Chou En-lai, you and I cannot agree because I come from a working class background and you come from a feudal aristocrat background. There's a class difference between the two of us, so therefore you will not understand what I am saying. So Chou En-lai, hearing that, he replied, I want the government and the Honorable Prime Minister to pay heed to the reply. And what did Chou En-lai tell Khrushchev, sir? He said, Khrushchev, you're right. We have we were born in different classes. But there's one thing common between you and me. Then Khrushchev says, what is common between you and me? He said, what is common between you and me is that both of us have betrayed our classes. So I hope they understand this. So do not give us this. So please realize the betrayal that you are doing of all the promises that you have made to the country. So therefore, sir, I'm so accustomed not to end till you ring the bell. So that's why I think you're right. So therefore, sir, let me just sum it up. What we are seeing in this address is actually a very, very dangerous course for what will be future for my India, our India, and this republic. Total silence on the issues that are dividing our people and dividing them through violence and strife, through the spread of hate and poison, and that is completely ignored in this address. And then the economic philosophy that is outlined in this address is an economic philosophy that is against the interests of our people. It is against the objective of creating a better India today. When we have the resources which are being squandered away by subsidies to the rich and avenues for plunder to foreign capital. And at this rate, not only is the divide between the rich and the poor widening in our country, two Indias are becoming wider, but that in itself, sir, I'll just end with one point. That in itself has a danger. Remember, you've quoted Dr. Ambedkar. When he presented the draft, he concluded, in one of his concluding paragraphs, he says, through this Constitution of India, through this Constitution, we are creating a political structure where one person has one vote has one value. Value of the vote is equal. But then he says, as long as we do not create a society where one person has one value, this entire political structure that we so laboriously built up will be thrown asunder. That is where their policies are leading this country.
Okay.
That is the danger. If you want to remember Ambedkar, remember his warning. And that warning we have to heed. And therefore, sir, I once
Okay.
again, finally, I
Okay,
just,
thank you.
through you, appeal to the government. Nobody has taken notes, so at least the proceedings will be there. So
Yeah.
I hope when the reply comes,
Okay.
at least there'll be some reference to this. And these are the essential points I wanted to make.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank
sir.
you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
this permission.